and welcome in everyone to this week's episode of Craze's Corner. This week we got some takeaways from week one that we're going to be sharing with you guys when it comes to fantasy football and our opinions on them, things we learned after watching week one. Definitely lots to talk about there. First, we got a couple of news stories, some big injuries. We're starting off with J.K. Dobbins. He hurt his Achilles. He was unable to return to the game, and he's going to be out for the entire season. Next story, Deontay Johnson is expected to miss at least 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. He could definitely be placed on short-term IR. Upside for George Pickens. While he's gone, maybe Allen Robinson comes back in. Allen Robinson get some targets, get some points for you. He might be a name to look at. And finally, Aaron Rodgers. He is out for the year with an Achilles injury as well. The Jets ended up winning that game after Aaron Rodgers went out, which is definitely something to keep an eye on. Breece looked amazing, and a couple guys we're going to talk about later as well. But the main takeaway from this is that a lot of players are continuing to complain about the turf fields. They're blaming these injuries on the turf fields, and they're starting to kind of try and push again for grass fields everywhere. The stadiums are going to be doing this for the World Cup when they come in 2024, I believe, or whenever 2026 that the World Cup is coming to the U.S. They're going to be changing all those fields to grass. There's already a few NFL teams like the Panthers who changed to grass fields for soccer. So there's definitely easy ways for the NFL to do this now, to transition towards all grass fields everywhere. But we'll see if they do implement that. Do you guys think that this is a decision that the NFL should make? Should they go back to all grass fields? And you can let us know using the Presser app. The Presser app is a virtual press conferencing app that will allow you to host a virtual press conference from your phone. You can go on the app, answer the question. Let us know, do you guys think that they should switch to all grass fields throughout the NFL? And you can let us know if you think this is going to help with the injuries or if you think the players are just complaining and this isn't actually going to help. So you can go check that app out. It's on the Google Play and the App Store. And let's welcome in our guests, Zach, Jeff, and Will. Welcome in, guys. How are we doing?
Good. We're ready.
Fabulous. Let's go.
Okay, Dolphins.
Ryan Clark.
Zach's happy.
Someone find Ryan Clark for me. Ask me if you watch Sunday's game.
Yeah, Zach's the happy one out of us. The Panthers, Seahawks, and Vikings didn't do too well, but Dolphins looked amazing. Like I said, we got stories we're going to be breaking down here, things that we learned from week one that we're going to take forward into this fantasy season and future fantasy seasons. I'm going to start it off. This is a guy that Will dislikes strongly, a guy that he takes every opportunity to slander whenever the opportunity arises. Matthew Stafford looked amazing on Sunday. He was fast with the ball. The ball had some zip on it, which we didn't get to see a lot of last year. He was concise. He was clean. He had 334 yards at 63% completion percentage. He was getting Puka Nacua involved. Tutu Atwell both had over 100 yards. Tyler Higbee was involved a little bit as well. Not as much as I was hoping for, but he was definitely involved a little bit there. Jan Jefferson wasn't quite as involved in the offense as we thought he was going to be, but Puka Nacua looked amazing, and so did Tutu Atwell in that offense last week, and I think that's all because of Matthew Stafford. And with that being said, I think we can trust Matthew Stafford when it comes to supporting at least one of these guys to be a top fantasy option. And especially when Cooper Kupp comes back, I think that you can be 100% confident that Matthew Stafford is healthy. And I expect him to look this way throughout the rest of the season. It was a big question mark. Will he be able to return? And I think we've seen Matthew Stafford return to form. Zach, were you impressed with what you saw out of Matthew Stafford last weekend?
Yeah, it was hard not to be impressed, obviously, because I think a lot of people were counting him out, especially when you take Cooper Kupp out of the equation. It just seemed like a fresh-faced Rams offense, kind of a nice resurgence for Sean McVay. Kind of seemed like the last years they kind of faded into the dust after the Super Bowl run and Cooper Kupp's amazing season. But yeah, Matthew Stafford, he's definitely, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but he's a Hall of Great. for sure. Maybe he is a Hall of Famer. I don't know, but these days they let everyone in. But yeah, I think the big story is there is Puka for sure. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with Matthew Stafford. It just shows you that this offense can still get it done for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, do you have anything you want to say about Matthew Stafford, who was able to beat your Seattle Seahawks on the weekend?
Yeah. Well, I think the thing was he had time. That pass rush that we had was horrendous. It was horrible. We've had bad pass rushes before, but I think maybe we sacked him like twice, maybe in the first part of the game, but that whole second half, nothing. So he had a lot of time, and like I said, there were quick guys, Tutu Atwell, Puka Nacua, man. And hell, we were lucky that Van Jefferson pretty much dropped a wide open touchdown pass. So, I was more impressed with the Rams as a whole. The defense I was impressed with. You had Geno Smith yelling, "Oh my God," as he's watching Aaron Donald just bear down on him. So, I was actually just impressed with the Rams all across the board. Not what I expected at all.
Yeah, I would say the only, place where I wasn't impressed with the Rams was the running game on the weekend. It was absolutely terrible. They had Kyren Williams in for most of the game.
Yeah.
And as a team, they averaged 2.3 yards per carry, which is atrocious, especially going up against a team that had no pass rush whatsoever. You'd think they'd be able to run the ball a little bit better. Apparently not. Didn't seem to work for them. So that's one area where they definitely struggled. Will, our resident Matthew Stafford hater, were you impressed by what you saw on Sunday?
He had a good game. I think I was more taken back by the Seahawks, honestly. And Jeff, I was watching some of the game, flipping channels on Sunday Ticket, but it's like, what the hell happened? Like, honestly, like, what happened? I don't think I've ever seen a Seahawks team not prepared. And that's the sense I got from that team on that game. Just, it was weird. I mean, it was a close game at halftime, and then it's like Seattle didn't come back out of the locker room. I don't know what happened.
We missed that field goal, and everything went downhill for that. They out-adjusted us that second half as well.
Did. Got out-coached.
Yep, that's it.
And that's what Sean McVay was paid the big bucks for in LA, is to outcoach the opposing team. Zach, let's move on to your takeaway from week one. What's the first takeaway you want to talk about here?
Yeah, number one on the field, number one in my heart, number one quarterback.
Number one on your wall.
Number one on my wall. He's number one everywhere. And that's obviously the Hawaiian Prince, Tua Tagovailoa. The one thing that stands out for Tua is that he showed another level of what he's capable of in this game. A lot of, trust me, no one's watched more dropbacks of Tua than I have. So I can confidently say that what he was doing last year was it looked like he was stepping up and trying his absolute hardest and only throwing it 22 yards. And like Tyreek Hill had to come back for the ball, jump up over somebody, where he was just dropping dimes 40 yards down the field. Like there was one play where the Braxton Berrios sideline catch was incredible, but that throw was even more impressive. There was one where he caught Tyreek Hill while he was running up into the pocket, like on the run, he just launched it, and it was a perfect dime. And then obviously the game-winning touchdown was an incredible, back shoulder fade. So my takeaway is that Tua is still getting better, and once again presents himself as of draft day value, and certainly at this point he's a league winner for where you were able to get him, and fins up, baby. And the offense looks crazy. So and this is a Chargers defense that has people like this. We didn't play the Cardinals and we did this. The Chargers were a lot of people's like dark horse, Super Bowl team for the AFC. Yeah. People wanted to see the Herbert Tua battle, and I think this time around Tua won this round against Herbert for sure.
I would agree for sure. I think Tua looked amazing, and Tyreek Hill also looked great coming back this offseason. I think that those two definitely have the connection. We didn't see Waddle get super involved last week, but I think that's something we'll see gradually. Last week was Tyreek Hill's week, and I think they'll both have their weeks here and there. But I think Tua looked amazing, and if he stays healthy, he's going to be a top, probably I don't know about a top 5 quarterback rest of season.
Love it.
That's right where I would put him, and Tyreek Hill possibly the wide receiver 1 rest of season if he can continue to look anywhere near as good as they look. Jeff, Will, anything you guys want to say about the Miami Dolphins offense?
Go ahead, Jeff.
I just know Patrick Mahomes is sitting at home like, God damn it! The hell! Why'd you let him go? But I'm telling you, what's it called? Jiu-jitsu? Man, that paid dividends. He just looked stronger, looked accurate, man. All of the above. I'm happy for him. He actually just got everybody involved, man. So I love what I saw, man. I'm glad they won. Because I think the Chargers are a little bit of a fraud anyway, and Brandon Staley should not be a head coach in the NFL. I'm done.
I'm going to say it right now. Tua is the best quarterback in the NFL.
Let's go.
No, I'm going to say it right now. In 2023, Tua is the best quarterback in the NFL. Now, can he stay healthy? But if he's healthy, give me Tua. I want Tua. That team, not only is he the best quarterback, but, hey, Kansas City, it's still a team sport. You need good players all over the field, not just a quarterback. Right?
Well, that's kind of the thing. If you kind of drop Patrick Mahomes into that offense with those receivers, could you imagine what would happen? What he'd be able to do?
But this isn't fantasy football. He's on Kansas City. He's in Kansas City. They don't have a team. They have 2 players, maybe 3, depending on what Chris Jones is going to do. I like the Dolphins because it is a well-coached team that's not respected for their coaching. It is a great roster construction by that front office. And for those fans, and even fantasy, right? Look, this is what we were all hoping for last year. If that's their output every week, they are must-see TV.
Mm-hmm. Let's go. Wow.
Yep. Yeah. And I'll say right now, Dallas, Miami, Super Bowl.
Oh, yes. Love it. Rematch.
No, I think there's no way Dallas is going to beat out 49ers when it comes down to it.
We'll find out week 5. We will find out week 5.
Yeah, I think the 49ers still there, but I could definitely see the Dolphins out of the AFC. Just I can't see the Cowboys making it Super Bowl.
Oh God. Stop, guys. I'm gonna
So we've talked about 2
change my shorts.
Players, offenses that kind of overperform what we thought they were going to. Jeff has decided he wants to take us in a different direction with staying at the quarterback position. Jeff, what do you want to talk about after week 1?
Daniel Jones is who we thought he was. He still sucks. He's Danny Pennies, not Danny Dimes. Danny half a cent. I don't even know how to. He's Danny failed crypto at this point.
Right.
That's exactly
what's the worst crypto you can say? That's him. That should be the back of his jersey. Whatever the worst crypto is, that's his last name for right now.
Last year was a mirage, dude. And I'm telling you, if they don't beat the Cardinals this week, it is time for them to enter into the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. Because, but what can you do? You just paid this dude a buttload. Didn't want to pay Saquon, but you paid that guy? The guy that tripped running an open field in his first year and just, yeah, dude. He is not him. He's not him. So whoever I'm him is, Daniel Jones is the opposite. He is not him. So that's my thing.
I know
just kind of pissed off that he got that huge contract, and these dudes did not want to pay. I would pay Saquon on injured reserve with a bum knee than pay this dude what you just paid him. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. I don't want to hear about the line. I don't want to hear any of that. A lot of that was him.
Can we say that this is also an indictment of NFL front offices? Like this imbalance where we have running backs not getting paid and we have quarterbacks getting way overpaid because most front offices don't trust themselves to be able to draft the right quarterback. So they get scared and they sign mediocre quarterbacks to huge contracts because, well, he's better than what we don't know. Is he? Is he? Is Daniel Jones, Giants fans, better than you don't know? I don't know how you score 0.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to him, it's kind of similar to the whole Kansas City Patrick Mahomes thing where he has no one to throw the ball to. But
that's the front office's fault.
Yeah.
They put the team together. They decided to pay him because they were afraid, well, who else are we going to get to play quarterback? And then they overpaid him. So like Jeff's point, even if they get the first draft pick, how do they get yeah, they can get rid of him, but you're going to cap hell for a year or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be tough for sure. But to his point, he doesn't really have any weapons there, but he looked terrible last week going up against the Cowboys. Good defense for sure. And they were able to get pressure on him, which definitely didn't help. He was able to make some plays with his legs, but he definitely didn't deserve a $160 million contract that he got. And it showed last week. Zach, anything you want to say before we move on here?
Not too much. I wasn't a big believer in Danny Dogecoin going into this season. So
there you go.
I think I had him. I think I want to say I had him ranked at like 18, and people were like, "You should just stop watching football. You don't know what you're talking about. Daniel Jones is top 10 quarterback," and it's just absolutely ridiculous. If you've ever watched a game of Daniel Jones, you know that his last season was one of the most ridiculously efficient, blown up, out of proportion, like not that great of a season. So he's coming down to earth this season. Cowboys are certainly an incredible defense, but you're going to see more games like this from Daniel Jones for sure.
Yeah, maybe not 0 points, but it'll be close. It'll be close to 0.
He's not out of the woods against Arizona this week.
No.
That defense is pretty good. It's surprisingly good. So that's what I'm saying.
Are they surprisingly good, or are the Washington Commanders maybe surprisingly bad?
I'm going to go with surprisingly good because that Washington offense is decent at least. I think they're better than that Giants offense. So we'll find out this weekend. We will find out this weekend. That's all I got to say.
What's your first takeaway you want to take away from week 1?
All right, Zach, I'm going to do this one so we can – you want me to hold that one off, Zach?
No, you might as well do it now. Okay. We're talking quarterbacks. You might as well keep it going.
Anthony Richardson, for all those in especially dynasty leagues who took the chance to go get him, it's going to pay off. Now, can he just not run is the way he was? Because I watched that last drive, and I felt bad for him because he got hit, and he needs to stop getting hit. But he is for real. I think Indianapolis got themselves a great quarterback. If you're in a dynasty league and you got him in your rookie draft, congratulations, because you probably got him late in the first round, or trade or something. Whatever happened, good. Congratulations.
Thanks,
Zach. What do you want to say about Anthony Richardson? He was one of your takeaways from week 1 as well.
Well, as a guy that did draft Anthony Richardson in my dynasty rookie draft this past season, it did cost me a pretty penny. I want to say it was like I took him like pick 6 or pick 5 maybe. But yeah, I just believed in the raw talent, and sometimes those guys don't translate to the NFL. But kind of like the housing market, I think it was just too big to fail. The guy's humongous, the size of a linebacker, and he has the athleticism of some of the best athletes we've ever seen test-wise. Set a whole bunch of records this past weekend. Actually now holds the record for the Indianapolis Colts for the most completions by a rookie quarterback in their first game. That includes Peyton Manning. That includes Andrew Luck. So yeah, it's for fantasy. He's a darling, and I think that's kind of where his appeal was, more in that fantasy realm versus like a guy that's going to lead your franchise to a Super Bowl. And yeah, I think he's a similar version of what we got with Jalen Hurts last year, but I think he was even more of a value draft-wise when you did take him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you did get him, you're definitely in that value aspect for fantasy. I'm still not 100% sold when it comes to NFL football, if he's going to be able to amount to anything for the Colts. But I think when it comes to fantasy, he proved that he's going to be able to, even in a game where they lost, he was still able to put up some numbers for you, so you're able to be quite happy with 23, 25 points, depending on your scoring format. So I think in that range is what you're going to get pretty much every week, as long as he doesn't take dumb hits like he took at the end of that last game, which is what you guys talked about. But that, as a quarterback, you need to know how to avoid those situations. And if you don't, then you're going to end up hurt. Jeff, what do you want to say about Anthony Richardson?
This again is where it comes down to ownership. He's probably not doing that if you have a decent running back and not Deion Jackson back there. I'm like, dude, you basically have no running game. He is your running game right now. So, you got him playing damn near two positions. Deion Jackson didn't do anything. The running game was horrible. So other than him, you've actually got him where he's only got two receivers, which is Pittman and Downs. Alec Peirce is a non-factor. So I'm like, once they keep building around him, I think he only gets better, especially if you give him a running game. So, we'll see what the Colts end up doing, but I think he's for real.
That's definitely they got to build around him that way, whether it's when Jonathan Taylor comes back or maybe Zach Moss is going to come back this week and absolutely light the NFL on fire.
Let's hope so.
I hope so. I got lots of Zach Moss shares.
Lots of Zach Moss shares too. So yeah, let's hope so.
I'm hoping this week he can, against the Texans, he'll look pretty good. But speaking of the Texans, that's the team I want to go to next. And I want to talk about a guy that Jeff loves that I think we were shown in week one. He's probably not going to be what everyone wanted him to be this year, and that's Dameon Peirce. Barely was the Texans running back one in that game. He was on the field for under 50% of the snaps. Mike Boone and Devin Singletary were both getting involved in that offense. Peirce got all this hype over the preseason because he was always on the field when the starting offense was out there. But when it came down to it and the teams actually playing, they had Mike Boone. Mike Boone and Devin Singletary in the game. He finished with 3.4 yards per carry, 11 carries for 38 yards. That's not what you wanted out of Dameon Peirce. He's supposed to be this 20-plus carry guy who's going to get you 70-plus yards a game, and that's not what we saw. They were playing Baltimore, so he's a tougher matchup. But still, that's not what I wanted to see out of Dameon Peirce. He only was good last year because he was on the field 80% of the time at the end of the season last year. And if you're not going to get that from Peirce, I don't think you're going to ever feel comfortable starting Dameon Peirce at any point this season. And that's one of my big takeaways from this season is if you have Dameon Peirce, you're probably not going to want to start him for a while. He might end up being a guy that you send to waivers if this is the way that this team keeps up. And a low-scoring offense, if you're on the field under 50% of the time, I can't imagine being a good start. Jeff, you're our Dameon Peirce fan here. What did you take away from his lackluster week one?
Well, I think we're getting kind of confused. I was that last year because I have no shares of him this year because it was a different coaching staff. It was Lovie Smith. It was a whole different offense that they were running, a guy that focuses on the run. I didn't know what the hell to expect this year with a rookie running back, a defensive-minded head coach, but seeing him bring in all these other free agents, with Singletary and Boone. I didn't know what was going to happen, so that's why I was totally out. I'm actually kind of surprised that they're throwing the ball as much, That's why I've been looking at Robert Woods. Bobby Trees had a little resurgence there. And it's unfortunate, man. I still think Peirce is a good running back. I just think with this first-year staff, not really knowing, just trying to get their feet underneath them right now, I didn't know what to expect from this whole offense, and that's why I'm just like I'm pumping the brakes on my man Dameon Peirce. So.
Yeah, I know you're a fan of the talent there, and you dynasty last year. You were trying to get in on the Dameon Peirce train.
Yes,
but yeah, this train is definitely come to a stop for me. I don't want to be on it. I'm jumping off. If you're on that train, I think if you can maybe look to try and trade him for something, because I think this is kind of what this offense is going to be. They're going to try and run through CJ Stroud this year, try and work him into the game. They know they're not winning anything. They have two top picks. Or no, they had two top picks last season, so they're going to be trying to work them in. I don't think they're competing this year, so they'll just keep trying to get reps and reps. Zach, what do you think about Dameon Peirce's usage week 1?
Tough opponent, playing from behind most of the game, if I remember correctly. So game script already going against him, and then sprinkling a rookie quarterback, which never really helps out any running back. So yeah, I'm gonna be nervous. I think it's way too early to make a call about sending him to the waivers. If you want to bench him, the thing about running backs is if you have that kind of depth, great. You did a good job drafting, or you're doing a good job in your dynasty team. But I have a team with fantasy where it's like I'm thinking about swapping him for Jamal Williams. Those are the kind of decisions you might be forced with, and it's like, like where's the upside in that? So
I'd rather have Jamal.
Right.
Yeah, I'd rather have Jamal Williams too.
Yeah. And then of course he would come out. Then Dameon Peirce would come out this week, and he'd fall into the end zone twice. He'd be super inefficient, but those are the kind of running backs that every week you're just nervous to play. But the talent's there, and I think maybe 2 more games like this. Yeah, I think you definitely got to move off that train, jump off real quick.
Yeah, I don't think you drop him now, but I think in a few weeks he might be a candidate at the end of your roster. You're like, well, he's had like less than 5 points every week. You're like, I can't keep him on the roster anymore. Will, anything you want to say about Peirce before we move on? No.
Nah.
We'll move on. Zach already kind of did his second point with Anthony Richardson, so we'll move on over to Jeff. Jeff, what is your next takeaway from week 1?
It makes me very sad. But the Dallas defense is now the new Legion of Boom. That defense is legit. With Parsons, with the secondary, Dan Quinn has basically turned these guys back into, the 2013 Seattle Seahawks defense. That's exactly what they reminded me of, man. As a Seahawks fan, it hurts me to see that over in Dallas, but that defense is for real. And I know we were talking about, I believe it was Will to make the statement that these dudes might be in the Super Bowl. I think that week 5 matchup with the 49ers is going to be very telling. If they are able to shut down that 49ers offense, it's, man, that's like right now to me, at least for the NFC 1 and 2. I'm not even looking at the Eagles right now after, although the Patriots they're pretty legit, but those 2 defenses look outstanding. So gives me a heavy heart to say that Dallas defense, it's for real. They remind me of my old Legion of Boom, and I wish we still had Dan Quinn, damn it. But anyway, that's it.
Yeah,
I've never given Dallas any kudos or anything, but I got to do it on this. Dan Quinn, he did it, man.
Yeah, their defense definitely looked good, and that's something you're going to keep in mind for fantasy when you're going against a Dallas team. Their pass rush looked amazing, and with the addition of Stephon Gilmore to the secondary, they look good there as well. So you're going to want to be hesitant when you're starting guys going up against Dallas. I think that, as you said, their defense looked good. I want to see what their defense looks like against someone who's not Daniel Jones. That will be nice to see. Maybe someone who's actually talented when it comes to throwing the football. I think that would be important. This week they play the Jets, if I'm not mistaken. So they're playing Zach Wilson, so this will be another masterclass by Dan Quinn. After that, they play the Cardinals. Masterclass by Dan Quinn. Then the Patriots, who knows what that team's going to look like. So they could very well be 4-0 going into their matchup against the 49ers in week 5, like you guys said. That will really be a telling match for me because that's the first time I think that defense is actually going to be tested. I don't see Zach Wilson or Josh Dobbs or Mac Jones really testing this defense. So they get a pretty easy start to the season, 4 games where their defense should be able to pick up lots of steam. They just better not get too cocky after week 4 playing up against the 49ers in San Francisco. That could be a tough game for them. Zach, any takeaways from the Dallas Cowboys defensive performance?
Nope. Good job, Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
That what you how you would summarize it, Will?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a fun defense to watch. They didn't even let up. They were having fun the whole game. They enjoyed from pregame warm-up to getting on that airplane to go home. That defense just kept going, and it was fun to watch, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely fun to watch, and like we said, they looked fantastic. But let's wait till we see this against a team with an offense, which will be week 5, apparently.
Yeah, I'd rather have that problem as a fan.
Yeah.
Just wait to see than
Yeah,
what
we
some of
got
us
4 weeks where we don't have to really worry.
Right. Where some of us had to watch some other stuff this weekend. I wish that was my problem.
Yeah. Where's my Arizona Cardinals and New York Giants on my schedule here? Don't seem to be this easy. But
Or where's my defense like that?
Will, what's your next takeaway from week 1 that you want to bring up?
Rookies. You know, I think it kind of ties to my final point.
You can talk about them both now if you want.
So look, I think as fantasy owners, we have to start understanding what the rule changes to 3 preseason games and no final cut down until after the 3 preseason games, right? Because remember, it used to be 4 games and it gradually cut itself down, which forced the first and second string guys to play at some point just because of numbers. And I think if we all looked at this weekend, you saw the teams who played some guys in the preseason. Most of them did pretty well. You saw teams that didn't play anybody until the first week, and they looked putrid, right? Like, what the heck was that? But you also then add into the rookies. The rookies got playing time in the preseason, so most of them did at least. And so they came out, and they looked more comfortable. Zay Flowers, Anthony Richardson, Jordan Addison, guys who got to play. This was their 4th game. And so as a fantasy owner, I think you have to start building that into your equation of how you draft and be mindful of what different philosophies coaches have on how they treat the preseason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely fair. The rookies, like you said, the quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, got lots of work in the preseason. He came out and looked comfortable in that offense. I don't want to talk too much about how the Panthers' offense looked, but other rookie quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud even looked, outside of his first pass that he caught to himself and that whole debacle that happened there, he looked fairly comfortable and confident. And rookies all around, Puka Nacua, we talked about earlier, he looked good. We talked about a couple other rookies as well. They'll look good. We're going to talk about one in a few minutes here with Zach's next pick as well. They'll look really good. And overall, I think you do have some good points there where some of these starters, like look at how the Bengals look. The Bengals look terrible. And how many snaps did Joe Burrow play in the preseason? 0. He played 0 preseason snaps, and they look terrible. He was coming off injury, so obviously that does come into account. But it's something you look at when guys are coming off an injury. They normally take a couple games to get reacclimated to playing football again. That's what we saw with Deshaun Watson last year at the end of the season. Took him weeks to get acclimated, and we still don't really think he's reached his full potential being back from not playing football. So I think that's something to keep in mind is if these players aren't getting time in preseason, maybe you're not super confident with them until week 3.
And just to add, like you heard all this talk on NFL Network or ESPN or NFL Radio, how the trend is these joint practices and they're just as good as real game environment. No, they're not. It's not. And these coaches, so Aaron Rodgers still got hurt that first week. Garrett Bradbury for the Vikings didn't play all preseason and didn't even make it out of the first quarter. So I don't know, these guys are overthinking this. Players need rep. They need time to work together. The Viking defense obviously needed time to work together under a whole new system, and you don't play any starters until week 1. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when you look at that, they're in a tough position where these players don't want to take all these extra reps, but they definitely need them for their health and for their football ability. Zach, what do you think about players resting throughout the preseason and then showing up rusty week 1?
I think that's a great point. Well, that was very well said, and it's something I really I didn't really think even to tap into, but that makes total sense. And I think another that plays into the factor too, like with these rookies getting a ton of playing time and kind of shifting the narrative that used to be rookie wide receivers and such take the
Yeah.
season to come on when you have a guy like Zay Flowers and Puka, Nacua, whatever his name is, taking 15 targets week one.
Mm-hmm.
Granted that's those guys are both, replacing the number one targets, but at the same time, like you said, rookies are involved day one now. And I think when you throw in the fact that a lot of these guys turn into big babies and hold out and want these monster contracts, they're like, well, shit, we got to start using these guys while they're under contract and they actually want to play. So yeah, that's a great point. And definitely the way the NFL is structured, like contract wise and schedule logistic wise, definitely plays a factor into fantasy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, what do you think?
And then, well, I was just looking at this stuff. That's why last year we saw so many teams end up basically gelling towards the end of the season. That's why we saw so many teams going on these winning streaks, because they almost like they use the first 3 weeks as their preseason, and then they're like, okay, now we figured it out. Now we've got our team together. Now we'll go ahead and, I mean, the Bengals didn't look this bad, last year, but I remember they lost the first game of the season as well, and they still ended up, in the playoffs, whatever would have you. So I think that's the same thing with a lot of these other teams. They're going to evolve. That's why, I don't know about that happening with the Giants. They just look like this.
Or the Bears. The Bears are done.
Yeah,
and just make the season off.
Yeah. But some of these other teams, I can see them like, okay, we're going to work out these kinks. We're going to get these new pieces in, and we're going to continue to evolve. So,
yeah, I think what you said there, where these teams are kind of using the first 2-3 weeks as their preseason, is definitely something that you can find accurate for some of these teams for sure. They're still trying to play around with what fits, what doesn't fit, trying to get the communications down. Will was talking before the show that the Vikings defense, Baker was able to decipher their hand signals by halftime. And that really signals a defense that doesn't know what they're doing if they're having to use such basic hand signals, that your opposing quarterback, who's not good in Baker Mayfield, is able to pick your defense apart and say, oh, I know what they're doing already. Like, it's not like you're going up against Tom Brady, who's got like 400 hours studying your team. This is Baker Mayfield. Probably got about 20 minutes looking at the team, and he's like, I feel good to go. I don't really got much competition behind me, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think you just want to make sure your teams are acclimated, and these NFL teams don't seem to care. At this point, if they lose a couple games at the beginning of the season, they can make it up later. So we'll see. We'll see how that, at least the Bengals, I feel like I'm confident the Bengals can make up, a couple losses at the beginning of the season, but some teams definitely can't. Like the Seahawks might not be able to make up for a couple losses at the beginning of the season. It might cost them a wild card spot there in the NFC.
True.
But let's move on here. We just talked about guys that haven't played in a while, come out looking a little rusty. But there are always a couple exceptions to every rule. And we're going to talk about one right now. And that's my guy, Calvin Ridley. Looked absolutely fantastic last week. He's coming off a suspension last year, an injury before that. So he's missed lots of time from football. He's coming in to Jacksonville in a new system with a new quarterback, and he looked fantastic. He had 11 targets, 8 receptions, 101 yards, and a touchdown. He looked great. If you had Calvin Ridley, you drafted him anywhere, you were extremely happy with what you saw. If you own him in a dynasty league with the 4 of us in it, you're through the roof with how he looked, and I absolutely am. I got him and Trevor Lawrence, and I couldn't be happier that he looked great. We saw it in training camp. He was by far the best wide receiver on the team, and we got to see that week 1 as well. He was clearly a favorite of Trevor Lawrence, and he just looked like he was ready to play football. He was back in football shape. He didn't need any of these 1 to 2 weeks to get back up to speed. He was ready to go. And I think Calvin Ridley has cemented himself as a top 12 wide receiver when it comes to fantasy football for the rest of the season. Is my takeaway from week 1. Zach, what do you think about Calvin Ridley? You think he's a wide receiver 1 going forward?
Without a doubt. And, he's going to flirt with top top 5, top 8, if this kind of connection continues. I have Christian Kirk shares, and
Yeah.
that's a ticking time bomb right there. That guy may be swimming in the waivers pretty soon if that keeps up, because it's just every play Trevor Lawrence just looks for Calvin Ridley. I mean, it was just nonstop targeting. It was insane. He looks great. Looks like he hasn't lost a step. If anything, he looks better. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so great. That's a great call. I love Calvin Ridley and what this Jags offense is looking like. Um, but yeah, this Christian Kirk hurts to see him kind of be pushed aside.
Yeah, it does. But like you said, I think he really took this past year to work on himself. You see a lot of players go away from football. They start to get out of shape. They really don't look as good when they come back. But you can clearly see Calvin Ridley's put in the time necessary to come back and be able to perform at the same level, if not better, than he was in Atlanta. Jeff, what do you think about Calvin Ridley?
I think this is another one where Patrick Mahomes is like, why didn't we get him? I was trying to buy him up in every league that I was in, and it did pay off. But that was the other thing of that. I know Christian Kirk owners are just like, what the hell just happened? Where he even got bypassed for Zay Jones. It's just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, he is a top wide receiver. I mean, if you saw him threatening one of the greatest receivers to ever play in Julio Jones. So that's why I'm just wondering, why would people think that he is just not that guy? And he just proved that he is. And I see him, yes, continuing to be probably finishing in the top 5 wide receivers by the end of the season.
As a dynasty owner, I would absolutely love to see that. Will, what do you think about Calvin Ridley in his week 1?
Oh, can we give Jacksonville's ownership and front office a 5th and a 4th round pick for Ridley last year when they made the trade? What a steal!
Mm-hmm.
Good for them. Like, that was a great trade at the trade deadline last year.
Mm-hmm.
That people were kind of like, "Wow," some people, "Oh, you traded for a guy on the." Okay, I didn't even know guys on the suspended list could get traded.
Me neither.
Right, that was an educated moment. But what a great! I mean, a 5th and a 4th round pick, a 5th this year and a 4th next year with no escalators. Woo! What a steal! Robbery.
Yeah, absolutely. Calvin Ridley looked fantastic. I expect him to continue to do so. But let's move on to another couple guys here that'll look fantastic. I know Zach wants to talk a little bit about them looking fantastic and some negatives for the rest of the team. But Zach, who do you want to talk about as one of your week 1 takeaways?
Yeah, this is one of those positive, negative correlation things here where you got all the positives and buttery Bijan Robinson cut moves. I mean, that was one of the most beautiful little scampers into the touchdowns I've seen in quite some time. I mean, that was a Chris Berman, like, whoop, if I ever see one. And then you also have this, running back he shares the field with, and Tyler Allgeier, and who outscored Bijan Robinson
my guy
this week. And it's just like, I didn't know we hopped in a time machine and we're now in 1974 playing football, but apparently Arthur Smith likes to just run the ball, even though he has 2 top 10, I think even higher than that, drafted receiving options. And there's the negative side, and Drake London and Kyle Pitts. I mean, a lot of people, including myself, have Drake London, second-year wide receiver. You got a quarterback change. You got kind of an explosive offense upgrade with Bijan, and it's just more of the same. It's just an offense you don't really want any part of the receivers, at least for the foreseeable future. Because even when this team is winning, they want to continue. This team is losing, they want to continue to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, my takeaway is Bijan is everything he was packaged to be. And also Tyler Allgeier will be just as fantasy relevant going forward if this team continues to have these sort of game scripts.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when you look at the way that they divided this backfield up, I felt it was pretty good. I feel like Bijan will continue to get a little bit more work as the season gone on. It was kind of Tyler Allgeier's backfield for the most part in that game. So I think that will switch a little bit, but I think Bijan's going to be great for fantasy. I think Tyler Allgeier being there still does, hinders him a little bit when it comes to finishing as the RB1, like some people had him projected. And I think Tyler Allgeier is going to have his own standalone value for the rest of the season, being a guy you can kind of flex in and out of your lineup when you need to, bye weeks, injuries, that kind of thing. So I think that's something to look forward to. My only worry when it comes to Tyler Allgeier is when Cordell Patterson comes back. I think he will take a few touches out of the backfield away. Whether he takes them away from Allgeier and Bijan or just Allgeier. But then that definitely doesn't help your argument for Pitts and London. When when Cordell Patterson comes back, he's listed as that joker position, and he's going to get targets, whether he's lining up in the slot out of the backfield. No matter where he is, he will get his targets, and that's just going to be worse for a guy in Drake London who caught 0 passes, and Kyle Pitts, who somehow got a defensive pass interference call when he shoved the defender out of the way. I'm not sure how exactly you get defensive pass interference when you put your hand on the back and push him out of the way, but I mean, he caught the ball somehow there. So that was an interesting one. But yeah, I don't think they're going to have much of a passing offense to speak of. But I do like their running backs. So I think that's a good.
I was going to say, too, also, we might look at this differently with the Tyler Allgeier thing, just real quick. Like, Bijan did fall like 2 yards from having a second touchdown. He was tackled, like I said, 2 yards away, and then Tyler Allgeier came in and stole the touchdown from him. So
the only thing I would say is they had lots of scoring opportunities, but they were not able to sustain any drives whatsoever, and they couldn't get like first downs. Were hard to come by. They only were in scoring position that often because the Panthers kept turning the ball over. Bryce Young with his 2 picks in Panthers territory and Miles Sanders fumble. Which is not something you're going to get every week because, the Panthers are special in that way.
You hope.
Yeah, when Desmond Ridder throws for 126 yards every week, definitely not going to help sustain any yards or drives whatsoever.
No. So I think I think Bijan will be the RB1 in that backfield. I think he can still finish as an RB1. But I think the RB1 is out of the question, in my opinion. But, Will, what do you think about this Atlanta Falcons team after week 1?
Call me back at week 5. The Allgeier thing, it's going to be driving every fantasy owner crazy who drafted.
Already is.
Right?
Ugh.
Just, what do? You play them both? If you handcuffed in your draft or in your roster, do you play them both?
Package trade.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy that lost JK.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you look at this Falcons schedule coming up, they play the Packers this week, which is going to be a matchup that'll be definitely tougher for them. And if they're not able to sustain drives against what we saw out of the Packers last week, Jordan Love was smart with the football, doing what he needed to, but he was never in a position where he was trying to do too much. If Aaron Jones is playing, I think that's going to be a completely different game plan for the Falcons, and we will have to see them throw the ball if they want to win. It's not like where they're playing against the Panthers where I said they were getting all these extra opportunities because the Panthers kept turning the ball over and that kind of stuff. They won't get that against the Packers or the Lions, who they play the week after that. I think the Lions looked great last week as well. So I think when you look at those two teams, I think we will see them start to throw the ball a little bit more, which obviously negatively impacts both Allgeier and Bijan a little bit if they're not going to be up winning the game for most of it and running the ball a lot. But it'll be interesting to see, as Will said. Let's see where they are after they get a couple more tougher matchups. And we got one more takeaway here from week 1, Jeff.
Hold on that, because I won't believe it until we see it. You're forgetting we got Arthur Smith as the coach. He's like, I got 2 Derrick Henrys. So that's all I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue to run the ball. So, I just wanted to throw that in there, dude. That was why I actually had Drake London in a league, and it's like a keeper league. I traded him before the season because I could see that, Bijan Robinson was going to be kind of the new toy, and Tyler Allgeier was still there. This dude's got 2 monster, decent running backs that he's going to be able to just go ahead and smash and through the lines, and that's what he does. He does not pass. So,
Well, and Jeff, you're right. It is just Tennessee further south. Tannenhill and Ritter kind of the same. Got 2 running backs.
No wide receivers.
No.
I mean, was Drake London the first wide receiver drafted in his class?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, why bother? Why bother taking Pitts? Why bother drafting Drake London? Just keep drafting the top linemen and just build the best offensive line you can build, and just keep getting Derrick Henrys in there. Like, what are we doing in Atlanta?
It's Nebraska football in Georgia.
It's ridiculous.
That's why I was never sold on Pitts. I was just like, he's not going to use this dude like he should at all.
He's the highest tight end drafted of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they can't use him. The only reason he had any fantasy points last year was because of that bad PI call, where he shoved the defender away, and somehow it wasn't PI on him; it was PI on the defender. I don't understand how that works, but that was his big play, his 40-yard catch that made his week somewhat relevant. It's tough to watch because I have Pitts in a couple leagues, and.
Yeah, look, can we talk about that? If you have London or Pitts on your roster right now, I wouldn't move them. I would wait.
If anything,
because you're not going to get anything for You're not going to get anything for them right now.
No.
Go after Pitts right now if you can.
Yeah, because like I said, they're going to have to throw the ball if they want to have any shot at winning these next 2 games against the Lions and the Packers. They're not just going to fold over like the Panthers did. And then they play Jacksonville after that. And Jacksonville, Indy looked good against Jacksonville, but Jacksonville still won that game. So those are 3 games where they're going to have to throw the ball if they want any chance at winning. And if they want to stay competitive in this division that apparently is open to anyone but the Panthers, they probably got to win a couple more games here because both the Saints and the Bucs also won last week. So they'll have to keep the winning going. And we're going to talk about a team that somehow managed to pull out a win against one of the AFC favorites. With Jeff's Neff takeaway from week 1.
Dude, the Jets with Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall is back.
Yeah.
If he can stay healthy. And the Jets D. Those 3 components may get them to the playoffs this year. It's just them against Zach Wilson. They're not even playing against an opponent. They're playing against their own quarterback. But that catch that Garrett Wilson did, man, I was like, that might have been my favorite even over Odell Beckham's, man. Just the way he caught it and moved it over to where it's like, okay, I'm just like he was, I don't even know how to even describe it, man. Just like, I'm just going to move this over here like it was suspended in air, and then I'm going to bring it in. I was just like, dude, if you got a guy like that, there's a chance. It's like, Zach, just put it in this area, and I'll do the rest.
Let me tell you, the best thing for Garrett Wilson owners was that highlight touchdown. Yeah. If you can get a first-round pick for him now, get it. Get it.
Buying the Garrett Wilson dip this year because he's an amazing talent. I'd give up a first and a second easily for Garrett Wilson if you can get that for him.
So, but
your first-round picks aren't guaranteed to hit. We know Garrett Wilson is an absolute talent, and even if you're not competitive this year, if you have someone else's first-round pick, then maybe a mid to late first-round pick, and you compare that with the second, I'd be buying Garrett Wilson because I fully believe he's going to be a top wide receiver in the NFL for the next 10, 15 years. That's my stance on Garrett Wilson. I think he is.
Once they get another quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm still not sold
Aaron
on
Rodgers
Zach
is
Wilson.
back next year. But you'll be able to play Garrett Wilson this year anyways. He'll get you 10 to 15 points a game this year. Not like he's not going to be the league winner that we think he's going to be. But I think that he will still be able to. Yeah, we're hoping he was going to be at least. But I think.
But Breece could be if he stays healthy. Yeah. Breece Hall could be. That dude is a different breed of running back. He has proved me wrong.
His first 2 carries, 109 yards or whatever he was at on 2 carries. He looked phenomenal.
Yeah, I think Dalvin Cook was like, really? You want me to go in after that? Okay, I'll get you 5 yards, but just go ahead and let him go, man.
On that point, can we talk about the glut of running backs? There are good running backs that are third string on these teams, and for fantasy, it kind of creates a little confusion, right? So, are you going to keep Dalvin Cook?
They just paid him a lot of money, so they got to.
No, I'm saying it's a fantasy owner.
Oh, as a fantasy owner.
Is he?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I like you said, the running back just market is just so rough in fantasy, and it's like if you got to start two of them, you're going to lose one of them. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
So at times Dalvin Cook is gonna score touchdowns this year, and I'm actually surprisingly I'm the most optimistic on the Jets even with Zach Wilson this year. I think you got to take a lot of the factor out that he just watched his dad go down to a massive, terrible injury right in front of him. On 9/11 in New York City, well, technically East Rutherford, New Jersey, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
But so I think we got to give Zach Wilson a little bit more. So on that kind of side of the Garrett Wilson thing, I think he'll be. I don't think it's going to be like just sound the alarms for Garrett Wilson just yet. Let's give them a little more time to plan with Zach. I'm certainly not saying Zach Wilson is great by any means.
Right.
I think the surrounding cast, to your point about Breece Hall, offensive line he didn't have to do anything. They were just making massive holes for him, and it was just a race to the sideline. And I think that helped Zach Wilson. I think Dalvin Cook. I think a much improved wide receiver core and an incredible defense is gonna carry Zach Wilson. But at the same time, I will have to say the best catch I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That Garrett Wilson catch is up there, but your boy JJ last year against the Bills, was just incredible. Like I still to this, but that Garrett Wilson catch is definitely top 5 all time.
Yeah,
that's what I'm wondering. If this is going to flip a switch for Zach Wilson, But it's just if you watch. I mean, I appreciated him. He looked like he was trying to tough it out. He was getting hit, and he stayed in there. But there were a couple of throws where I was like, dude, that should have been a pick 6 right there, But luckily, there was just something where it was like, this game has to be won by the Jets for all of the misfortune that they've just gone through with, the buildup with Aaron Rodgers. I was actually relieved that they ended up winning the game. So this next game against Dallas, I think this is going to be kind of the telltale, what's going to happen.
There's no way. There's no way I'm playing Garrett Wilson this week on my roster. If I have, I'm be honest,
yeah. But what if they're losing by 20 in the first 2 drives? They're gonna just be nonstop passing it. If anything, I'm not playing Breece Hall.
Well, here's the thing: is when do the Jets coaching staff in that situation decide? I have to think about the future. Am I really gonna? If they're down 20-0 in the first quarter, are you really gonna leave those prime building blocks of your team on the field? No way, I'm doing that.
My question is, I don't really see a world where Zach Wilson is the starting quarterback for this team past week 6. I think that this team is built to win now with the defense that they have. I think that they could bring someone else in, whether they
got their first round pick back.
Mm-hmm. They don't have exactly. They don't have to trade away their first round pick for Aaron Rodgers now that he's not going to be playing. They played the Cowboys, Patriots, Chiefs, Broncos, Eagles. I could see them losing all those games with Zach Wilson at the helm.
Brutal.
Those are
I'm going to say this as a Viking fan. If the Vikings start 1-5, which is very likely,
Kirk,
I think he's a free agent next year. They're not re-signing him. Remember, the Jets were interested in Kirk.
Mm-hmm. The Rams could trade Stafford for all we know.
Too expensive.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk makes sense for a team that loses a quarterback. If the Vikings are flatlining, he's on the last year of his contract. You get 4 or 5 weeks in, and you can bring him on, and it's just a game-to-game. It's a 1-year rental. And then you get to recoup whatever draft pick he'll get you from being a free agent. Probably get you a 3rd or 4th round pick in the supplemental picks. If I was the Jets, I'd probably – because what other quarterback – I guess maybe with Tennessee.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz. Oh, God.
Carson Wentz or Zach Wilson?
Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
You know what Carson Wentz is. Do we really, really know what Zach Wilson is? You know what I mean? Like, it's tough.
True.
They'll have to evaluate their options. They could trade for another team's backup quarterback. They could do something where because they're going to be, in my
It's going
opinion,
to have to come from the NFC. It's going to have to be from the NFC because anyone with a playoff contender in the AFC is not going to move to the Jets. So
Tyler Huntley couldn't end up on the Jets.
From Baltimore?
My God. Yeah, he's a Pro Bowler, so makes sense.
But why would Baltimore give the Jets a quarterback to create competition?
Because
the other thing that we're not even looking at, think about this. It's not even so much the quarterback. Now you're even looking at the offensive coordinator. You got Nathaniel Hackett back there. It was like, okay, it's good with Aaron Rodgers. Now I'm like, him and Zach Wilson or him and whoever, it's like, how much trust do you have in him now? Yeah, that's just like would he have been tapped to be the offensive coordinator if Aaron Rodgers wasn't part of that package? So now it's like I could have saw if they kept LaFleur as the offensive coordinator. Then I'd be like, maybe we try to go get Trey Lance from the Cowboys or something. But now I'm just like, I don't know what the hell you do. It's just going to be like we're just going to rely on everything else.
So are the 49ers kicking themselves?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You went from getting a 4th round pick to getting probably a 1st round pick if they had Trey Lance right now.
I don't know if they get a 1st.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe not a 1st, but definitely better than a 4th.
They could probably get a 2nd or a 3rd, I think.
Yeah, 2nd.
But the Jets don't have a 2nd.
Maybe next year's 2nd. Maybe next year.
The Jets are going to have to. If the Jets they feel pressure to win, they're going to have to give the 1st round pick for. Look, the Vikings gave up a 1st round pick for Bradford that year, and it almost paid off.
I forgot about that. Damn, Sam Bradford.
So I'm just saying,
the Jets,
the 49ers have to be kicking themselves. Okay, even if they don't win to get a 1st, they at least would have got a 3rd and a 3 and a 2.
Yeah, they could have got.
They should have just kept him.
They should definitely be kicking themselves about that. But we'll see what the Jets do at quarterback. I can't see a way where Zach Wilson starts the rest of the season because I think their fans will get impatient, and I don't think that the team believes Zach Wilson can be the guy for them. Despite everything they're saying where this is Zach Wilson's team and everything, I don't believe that it is Zach Wilson's team. Carson Wentz could end up being their starting quarterback. They could bring back Joe Flacco. Cam Newton said his phone was open if they decided to call him.
Oh, God.
Colin Kaepernick wants the job.
Hey.
There's guys out there that...
Would Arizona move Kyler Murray?
Yes.
When he's healthy? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
If he's healthy by week 4 or 5?
That's interesting.
If you give Kyler to the Jets for Aaron Rodgers in a 1st.
No. Aaron Rodgers is not going to the
Cowboys. He's not going to Arizona.
No, but it's not. It's just to move the salary.
Yep. Yeah, because he'd retire, I think, if Kyler goes to
Yeah. It's just to move the salary. Let him be a free agent.
I think he's going to retire regardless. I don't see how a 4-year-old man is going to come back from an Achilles tear.
At least he's not super mobile.
20-year-olds, it takes 20-year-old guys years.
How about Baker Mayfield for a 3rd?
Oh my God, he's the same person.
Or the Cowboys wouldn't move their backup. I don't know what the Jets are going to do. There's going to be the slit. It's either accept you're not going to playoffs.
Marcus Mariota.
Oh,
he just quit on the team again.
What happened? Did Mariota leave the team?
No, he's still there. He's still
there.
Last year, Atlanta, he just when he got benched, he just left the team.
But in the Jets, you'd be better than Zach Wilson, in my opinion.
Hell, Taylor Heineke. I'd try to get him.
The crazy part about all this is Zach Wilson is a 1st-round pick that was selected to be the franchise quarterback, and we're like, what about Joe Flacco?
Actually, Heineke wouldn't be a bad.
But what other people are starting to say too is Nick Foles, and I'm just like, dude, that was one season, 4 seasons ago now, man.
Yeah, even longer than that.
Even longer,
let it go, man. Let it go.
Yeah, that's definitely over. That is 100% over. They'll have to work through their options.
Trubisky,
not an upgrade.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Trubisky might be starting for Pittsburgh before this is all over.
Nah.
Yeah, for real.
I think Kenny just got kind of into
He got into something. How many?
Nah, it's okay.
The
Allen Robinson
49ers, the
is gonna
49ers
turn
offensive
this
line
offense
was
around.
saying they were rooting for Pittsburgh to get a first down because they were so tired of being on the field so long.
Yeah, but they were playing against the 49ers, who are the favorite in the NFC, in my opinion. You guys don't seem to think so. You guys like Dallas, but this
I think that's
49ers
going to be
team
one of
is
those
legit.
teams that starts to gel again as they continue to go. I think they just got hit
Allen
in the
Robinson
mouth and
It's
just
going to
kind of.
be the best wide receiver we've ever seen for the next 5 weeks while Deontay Johnson's going.
I do like Allen Robinson though. But I like Calvin Austin even a little bit more,
Yeah.
man.
Famous last words. I really like Allen Robinson.
That's how you know we're getting into the thick of things. I'm surprised Jeff didn't bring up the Broncos on this show. I thought maybe he'd have a takeaway that Russ looked
He did. I was
Same.
saying he could have went to the defense. He could have went to everybody else and be like, just like they were treating him last year, yelling at him and stuff. He could have been like, "What the hell is your problem, Broncos country? Do it, Zach."
Broncos
No.
country.
That's right.
Only gave
Maybe-
up 16 points.
Maybe rest to the Jets.
Russ
Sean
to the
Payton
Jets.
wouldn't do
New
that.
York City. No, he would be eviscerated by the New York media.
He actually looked good, man. He looked like the Russ that I know. Got rid of the ball, got out of the pocket. You know,
If that's looking good, they're in trouble.
he looked better.
He did. He
He
looked
looked
better.
a lot better.
This is his last year in Denver. He will not be back.
No way. No
This is
way.
last
I think
year.
Russ
This
is
is
going to
last
continue to
year's-
build.
This is last year's starting quarterback, too.
Yeah.
It wasn't
I
him
agree.
losing that game. He did not lose that game.
They certainly
No,
didn't win it.
The rest of the team. The rest of the team screwed themselves over.
Nah,
But they
you're
should have been
right,
able to
it
beat
is.
the Raiders.
Right.
Like
yeah.
the Raiders,
Definitely.
especially Josh Jacobs didn't have a good game. Devontae
No.
Adams didn't have a good game. How do you not beat the Raiders when their two best players didn't
Well,
have?
there were a lot of suspect calls, man. Patrick Surtain, that PI that was right. I was just like, really? That's PI, man. So that was another thing. There were some crazy calls.
We lost Jacoby Myers.
Oh, that hit on Jacoby Myers was brutal, man.
Brutal.
He pulled him. He pulled the Tua.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Yeah, he did the
Scary.
whole
He,
frozen. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I thought he was
Thanks,
dead
guys.
for a minute there because his
I
eyes were
did
just
too.
like.
think
I
he
was
thought
like,
he
oh
died.
my God, we're witnessing a death on live television.
It was so violent too because it's like Tua just got like swung around, whereas like this was like a head-on collision,
Yeah,
head-to-head
man.
car accident. Like, oh,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Brutal.
Yeah. So
That was rough. It
Anyway.
ended on a
was
good note.
rough. We've had some time here. We've chatted about our week 1 takeaways. We're going to end it there. Hope you guys learned some stuff. You're going to be hopefully dropping Dameon Peirce in a couple weeks to the waiver wires. I heard that we're targeting Allen
Pick up
Robinson.
Cordell Patterson.
We're targeting Allen Robinson on all waiver wires
Yes.
going forward here with the injury to Deontay Johnson. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys all for joining, Zach, Will, and Jeff. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bronco Country.
Broncos country. Let's go trade for Zach Wilson.
There you go.
Good night.